Welcome to We Are Something Else presents Smoque N Spiel. Oh my God, we are back. I'm joined by my bro, E Rich, aka Cali Cool 24. Yo, E, what's good with you, bro?
What's going on, bro?
Man, look, nothing, man. Look, I have been couldn't wait to get back here. Real quick, shout out to Big Mike, who's normally sitting in the co-host seat with me. Big Mike has got a lot on his plate right now. I think he just enrolled in school, work schedules, all that. Life is life right now for Big Mike. But shout out to him because this show wouldn't be possible without him. He paved the way, and then at some point, Big Mike will join us again. But till then, I got my bro right here. E Rich, come on, bro. Look, welcome to Smoque N Spiel, bro. I've been dying to get you on one of these.
Yeah, you know what it is. Like we constantly have movie references on a regular basis, and it was only right that I get on the show because again, our infinity for movies is crazy, and sometimes it definitely perplexes people when they hear us talk about certain things.
All day, bro.
They be like, huh? They be like, oh man, they didn't see that movie. Oh no.
How you ain't see that movie? But yeah, look, man, let's do this. So normally, let me give a disclaimer. The show's called Smoque N Spiel, and normally I'm supposed to be smoking on hookah. Big Mike smokes on hookah, but I'm gonna be honest. I didn't feel like making a hookah tonight, and we are in I'm in a different location now. The studio has grown in size, and then there's a smoke detector in this studio now. And I don't know if it's going to set the smoke detector off, and I don't want to be mid-show recording and figure out for the first time that the smoke detector is going to pick up the hookah smoke, and I got to stop recording. So I promise to bring back the hookah at least the next episode. But for now, it's all about Smoque N Spiel and episode 8. So it's been about 5 months, and the last thing we reviewed was Robert Townsend's Meteor Man. And hopefully everybody's caught up with the episodes of Smoque N Spiel. But tonight, episode 8 is going down, and we are reviewing, oh my gosh, Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs. Classic. I mean, typically we ask that at the end, is this a classic? I mean, but I'm telling you right now, this could be a hood classic. We'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs, written and directed by Wes Craven, released November 1st, 1991. Think about how long that's been, bro. 102 minutes long. The budget. This is the crazy part. Let's talk about this. The budget was $6 million.
Yep.
Box office, it made $31.3 million. So this was a sleeper movie, and it got great reviews to make almost 5 times the budget. That's crazy.
Speaks for itself. When movies do that, there's really nothing to say. I mean, that's when you that's the fan favorite. When they go out and they watch it, you got one.
Yeah, this movie took on its own life and kind of had its own cult following. I did not go to the movies to see this. I remember being a kid, and I think I just stumbled across it on cable, and I just got caught up in watching it just like anybody else. And I'm a horror buff, so I think it just caught my eye as a kid, and I was like, yo, this is pretty dope. And because the character looked relatable to me. A little black kid, So, okay, real quick. So if people don't know, let me tell you what People Under the Stairs is about. So pretty much, People Under the Stairs, Fool, who's the main character, he lives in the hood, and he turns 13. Off the break, they tell you, Fool's turning 13. Yep. And he's faced with being evicted from out his home, an apartment in the projects, and his mother needs a life-saving surgery because her cancer has returned. Yep. Off the break, that's it. So that's the whole plot. And Fool has to find a way to save the day. He has to find a way to save his apartment and his mom's life because he needs a surgery.
And his sisters and her kids.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, he has siblings. And then off the break, when he's talking to his mom in the very beginning, she tells him, "You are the man of the house now."
Yep.
13. Imagine that.
13.
In the hood, you're 13. It looks like the only male sibling spawn, whatever. You are the man of the house.
Yeah.
And then so from there, his sister Ruby has a boyfriend, love interest, and he's got a way to get Fool the money to save his mom and the household. And let's talk about this. Played by the first time I've ever seen Ving Rhames in a movie.
Okay.
That's probably the first time we've ever seen Ving Rhames, right? So that's pretty much the plot. Like I said, Wes Craven, the king of horror.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, good horror and cheesy horror, which sometimes the cheesy horror is good too. But shout out to Wes, who passed away a few years back, but he is definitely the king.
I think it was 2015.
Okay. Definitely the king of horror. Yeah. Nobody, and they're going to tell you that he is. All right. So let's talk about stars. Stars Brandon Adams, Everett McGill, Wendy Robie, AJ Langer, Sean Whalen, again, the young Ving Rhames. He's not really a star, but he's a key piece. And there's some mentionables. Kelly Jo Mentner, who plays the sister Ruby. And Kelly Jo Mentner was big in the 80s. Movies like The Principal. She was Summer School. She was in the car with Play when he went to go pick up Bilal at House Party. Yeah. So she's been around for a while.
Dragon, bro.
Dragon, exactly. Bill Cobbs, who plays Grandpa Booker. Now, Bill Cobbs, you want to know, he's the older black guy that's kind of always in the background of the movie, or the wise man in the movie. I'm going to tell you where you recognize Bill Cobb from if you watch hood black movies. He was the old man in New Jack City. Your soul is needed in hell. Yeah, that's Bill Cobb. And then Jeremy Roberts, who plays Spencer, not really a star, but again, key component into how this movie takes off, right?
Thanks.
So let's talk about Brandon. Let's talk about Fool for a little bit. Real name Poindexter, but Ruby deems him Fool because she's in the tarot cards.
Yeah.
So my assessment on Fool, again, just turns 13. I'm trying to remember being 13 and having all that responsibility and weight on my shoulders. I didn't. I was outside playing football, basketball with the homies. This kid is thrown into a real life situation right away off the break.
Sure.
Yeah. And he obviously knows right from wrong, but he wants to be the savior.
Yeah.
So Leroy, who's played by Ving Rhames, Leroy is the boyfriend of Ruby, who is Fool's sister. His idea to save the day was to go into the suburbs, the richer area, and break into this house where they are holding gold coins. That's the plot.
So, real quick, to kind of help with that plot. So for Ving Rhames' character, remember they had already pulled the lick on the liquor store, which is why this information, as far as where they needed to go to the house, right, of the owners, this is where the movie starts to kind of grow its legs, right, where he's understanding that, oh damn, well, the owner of all of these buildings that are being condemned and they're buying up is also the owner of the liquor store. Why? Because here's this piece of paper that shows that they're looking for X, Y, and Z. So I mean, he definitely, I can see where like his character definitely makes an impact on Fool, and the fact that him being 13 and automatically going with whatever an older person is that's saying this is the only way that you're gonna get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, somebody's got to do it. We got to do it. They got more money than they can ever handle. They don't even come down here to the hood and they want to kick y'all out. Not gonna be out on the street. So I mean, I'm trying to put myself in that situation, being faced with a real life like that right away. I mean, of course, you're gonna do whatever you can do to save moms.
Sure.
And not be put out on the street. So let's go with so the plot to break into this house that they know nothing about, right? So you got Fool, you got Leroy played by Ving Rhames, and you got Spencer played by Jeremy Roberts. The plan is to go to the house into the suburbs, and they first try to have Fool dress up as a Boy Scout, Cub Scout, right? Fool's job is to be a Cub Scout, go to the door, try to sell some cookies, and if not, play the I gotta pee kind of game and get in the house. Well, the woman's not buying that. She don't want his black ass nowhere near the house, kind of thing. She forces him away quick. She's like, nah, and she keeps her distance. If you notice that, right? So, and all of a sudden, so there's who was that? That's her. When I looked up the characters, Wendy, Robie. The name of this character was Woman. They didn't have a name. It was Woman.
Yeah.
If you think later on in the movie, when the grandfather is telling you about the family, right? He just says that family generation. He doesn't give a name or so. Yeah, Woman. So she keeps her distance, and just like in classic horror movies, she's a little off.
Yeah, a little
pale, a little pale. You know something's not right all of a sudden, and then like Fool sees chains on the windows. The windows and doors are locked from the outside.
Yeah,
from the outside, bro.
Yeah, let's question for you, because I want to tie that into what you said. The thing that caught us with this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Young, that's when we were going outside, exploring, riding bikes, like, and everybody has one, or you went to that one neighborhood that one house just looked weird as shit.
Yeah,
like it just didn't. It was like, nah, dog. Like, that's the one you don't go, or that's the one where your boy was like, I bet you to go knock on the door, or whatever. That was that house. Like, when you really kind of look at it, it serves the purpose of, like you said, for us, and how that movie like really represented a neighborhood, a little bit mid-class. So like, that's the crazy part, was when you looked at the houses that were in that neighborhood, they weren't in a very wealthy area, right? Because it looked like maybe a little upper middle class, but it wasn't like,
it wasn't super.
Yeah,
the house didn't stand out for anything from the rest. The only thing that stood out was the lock, the chain doors and windows and stuff like that. If you could see it from the street.
Exactly, right? Because it was kind of tucked in the back. Like, you had to like really get to the house. So yeah, it definitely just kind of reminded you of certain locations where you'd be like, damn, I remember there was a house in a such and such block that looked like that. Like, nah, man, we ain't mess with that house. Like, never saw anybody leaving the house, or you only saw the car in the driveway, then them leaving, but like, it was always a mystery, right? You knew everybody else on the block.
And you said that too, right? They had the car. They had this old school, like, all black vampire, like Dracula. And I wonder if Wes did that on purpose. Like, I mean, obviously he gave them that car on purpose, but I'm wondering if it represented like every classic horror movie kind of car, right? Like, the villain or Dracula always drives something like some kind of classic hot rod, right? Because that's exactly what it was.
Well, now that I think about it, wasn't there like the funeral sign home in the front of the yard that was kind of hanging off the
That's what that was. Yeah. And you find that out later. That's what it. Yeah. So it makes sense.
Exactly.
It makes sense. Okay. So the plan to get Fool in the house doesn't work, obviously. So Spencer has the follow-up plan. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go in. You can't send a boy to do a man's job. I got you. Spencer dresses up as a gas man. He goes up. She's a little more open to Spencer. Here we go with the colorism thing, right? A little more open to Spencer. She responds to him. He tells her, like, look, I need to get to the gas line in the house. She said, you already passed it on the way up. He's like, nah. It's one in the house. It's got the little fake clipboard. I got the map of the house. It's one in there, and you got to let me in, or I got the authority to call the cops.
Right.
But the weirdest thing, right? She notices, and I wonder if she was ever onto him, right? Because we find out that plenty of people have attempted to get in that house before, right? Hence the dolls, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if she was on Spencer right away, or was it the ring that kind of, something about her staring at that ring one, let him in the house. Two, probably gave her either to shoot her guard up, even because we don't know what happened once he got in the house. I mean, we know with his something that she saw into him. That story let him in the house.
So I think twofold. So I think it's the ring, but also the most jankiest ID with just a name. It was all printed, right? There was no company logo. Like it was the fakest, like, here's my ID. And it was just the basics, like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it was a combination of, like you said, other people had been in there or tried to get in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of knew what the game was, but also based upon what's in the basement, it's like, we ain't got to go out and get it. We can somebody right here to.
There you go. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Okay. So,
not to give it away too early, we just started the show.
So, and then we have a conversation, like the relationship between Fool and Leroy has kind of grown a little bit. I mean, they don't know much about each other.
Yeah.
But there's I only want to use the word respect in between them, but there's some type of, I don't know, there's something, their relationship's a little weird because Fool falls right in line. Fool, I guess at this point, he has a mindset, I have to do what I got to do. Leroy knows what he needs. He's Fool is kind of his pawn, but he's also schooling Fool. Like, look, you got to be a man. You got to be a man, because what they do, like when Spencer doesn't come back, they ultimately end up in the house, right? They ultimately end up because the woman leaves, and they're like, "Wait a minute, they left Spencer in the house like that? What's up?" So all they're thinking, well, damn, Spencer's getting ready to rob us. He taking from us, and Fool's like, you know what? If he take from you, he got to take. If he mess with you, he messing with me. So he's already invested into this, right? But then they get into the house, and like some of the life lessons, Fool is still 13. He's a little nervous about going in this house, like actually breaking in now at this point, right? And at some point he asks Leroy if you think I can still be a doctor? And he was like, what did he say? Like doctor or breaking in or something like that. Like already, like he's telling, like, this is what it's going to be for you. Like there is no hope for you.
Yeah. Leroy definitely, like you said, it was interesting chemistry between the two, because it was like, I respect the little G because, he realizes he's got to step up and do something. Yeah, he definitely are, because he stood up to him, you know what I'm saying, in the kitchen when they was having that conversation with Ruby, and Ruby tried to step in. But, at the same time, it's like, Leroy was already gone, right? Like he's the stick up man, not really the stick man, but you could tell like he was about breaking the innards. He literally said, "There's no door that I can't get into," right? So, lead him into that life, knowing that, look, man, this is your only choice. You got to roll with this, or you figure out a way that you're gonna get your mom and everybody else about that house. So,
yeah,
it was an interesting dynamic, and like you said, in that moment of when he wanted to kind of just say, this ain't it, Leroy still kind of entices him of, this is the only way. You know what I mean? Like right now, you got to make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now I want to dive in a little bit to mom, or to woman, and then her husband, or her other half. His name is Man, but she also refers to him as Daddy.
Yes.
Which is weird, right? Well, I mean, people, hey, Daddy. But the little bit we know about them so far, right? The little bit we know about them this far is, one, they own a liquor store, because that gets Fool, Leroy, and Spencer there, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then we have a scene with them, and they seem to have a daughter named Alice.
Yes.
And Alice represents, like when you see Alice, I think she wears all white throughout the whole movie, like, right? She represents purity, kind of, sort of, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the interaction that we get from the three of them off the break is, first of all, Man says, some niggers robbed the store.
Yep.
So therein lies the language of, okay, we know how they feel about black people. We also know how they feel because that neighborhood that Fool comes from, although it wasn't just black people we saw in that project building, but that's what they see. That's what they, Niggers robbed the store. And that's so using language like that. I mean, you already know what it is. But
Exactly.
Alice tries to interrupt, and they tell her, don't speak unless you're spoken to. Or what do you say? Like, so she said something like, yes, ma'am. So strict household.
Yeah. Obedience.
Oh, exactly. And like this dark fucking looking living room that's like had fire lit and all that, like it was weird. And then the man was eating some kind of weird meat with buckshots in it, right?
For sure, definitely a human. Like he was eating buckshots, right? Like it was.
We didn't get that far, yeah, exactly. But we don't know, this weird looking kind of, yeah. So Fool and Leroy in the house at this point, right? And then we know about that big ass fucking Rottweiler that Prince is the Rottweiler. We know about the Rottweiler that man and woman have, right? Protecting their house. And that dog is ferocious, needless to say. And he's and you know what? All horror movies or like Dracula's, like there's always an animal that's always like one up on everybody else because like super alert protector. Like Dracula always has a wolf, or like we've seen movies like that, or Vampire in Brooklyn. The wolf scene on that, like there's.
Listen, I can't let that. Funny, okay. Oddly enough, right? Because you referenced that, it is funny how they labeled this a comedy horror.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we get the comedy aspect of it, of what happens throughout the movie, that there are some laughable scenes for sure, right?
Right. Says, right?
Yes. Oh,
okay.
Without no, especially with this one. You bring up Prince, and not to go too like further into the movie, but there's a scene with the dog in Full of, I think it's a classic sign, and it was something that I was told as a young dude, right? Anybody, whether it was middle class, hood, whatever you lived in, if you got chased by a dog, 9 times out of 10 you weren't gonna outrun the dog. If you couldn't don't on top of a car, now ain't always, because they can still climb up and jump and get on the car, right? So if you wasn't climbing a fence, right, to sit on top of the fence, right? There was one thing that I remember my brother and my cousin told me. If you get a chance, and if it's your last thing you got to do, the only way you can get away from a dog is if you punch him in his nose. And lo and behold, in the damn movie, Full punches the damn dog in his nose to get him off of the door so that he can close the door.
Dog back. He sets the dog back. So now so this point, like Leroy goes off, and they're looking for Spencer still, right? Leroy goes off.
Yes.
He's doing his thing. Fool goes off to look for Leroy, and he ends up in the basement. Never go into anybody's basement. That's where no matter what, it all goes down in the basement or maybe the attic.
True. And even before that, let's just talk about how fortified the damn kitchen door was. That when they opened the kitchen door, the damn, like, it was metal. Like,
but once he opened up the kitchen door, it opened everything. Like,
yeah.
That's a sign. They don't want nobody getting out, bro.
Exactly.
Getting in. It's about you getting out. He already told you the locks was on the outside of the door.
Outside the door and the windows. Like, that's no.
You still want to go in there? Like, come on now. These movies typically, I know, you got a black star. You got to include black people, but these typically ain't our movies, bro. These typically ain't our scenes, bro. But okay, so they're in there, right? In the basement where there's a bunch of fucking weird noises.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what that is. Then you see the flashing lights, and then next thing you know, like, oh, that was his first encounter with Roach.
Yes.
That's what happened. He finds Spencer
on the floor. Yeah.
Spencer in the basement. Or he saw, no, let's take it back. They had just got in. He found the doll of Spencer in the mousetrap. Remember that?
That is right.
He
That
found
is
the
right.
doll first, then, which is a weird thing. Found a doll, but I don't know if he knew that was Spencer, but it was dressed like a baby. So then fast forward, he's in the basement. He has he finds Spencer dead just dead. And from there is some weird noises. He knows there's something behind that's being caged in down there because you see it at this point, but then there's one coming after him.
Yep.
Roach is who we find out his name is Roach. Roach chases Fool, right? And he's making these weird noises. And there's always that skin crawl chase scene in a horror movie. Like it's kind of like the Jaws thing, right? You feel like as soon as you get back on the boat, that's what happens. He goes up down the steps. And Mike also to remember the door locked behind him when he went down the first time. Anyways, opens up the door. You see Roach try to pull him back downstairs, shuts the door. But did you ever notice what Roach does with his hands? So instead of coming all the way through the door, Roach stops at the steps. And then at some point when Fool clears free, Roach moves his hands back and Fool shuts the door. So that's the significance of, we don't know till later, but Roach doesn't come in that house. Like for some reason, he didn't want to come upstairs. He didn't want to come on the other side of the walls.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is Fool's kind of first interaction of seeing Alice.
Yep.
It was quick because as soon as he turned his back, Alice was gone. He goes upstairs and finds Leroy face down in the vent.
With the kufi on, with the kente kufi on it.
And he had a denim. He had like a black denim jacket on too. And so he takes Leroy. I think he calls him a couple of Leroy. Then Leroy. It was a jump scene. Leroy's alive, and Leroy's like, "Yo, we gotta get out of here. I hear something in the walls."
Exactly,
bro. But what happens at this time? What's going on? They look out. The people are home. They look out the window, right?
Yeah. Well, and he also Fool told him that he had found Spencer, and he had made that comment. He was like, "You thought Spencer was white before. You should see him now." Because clearly what he saw downstairs was something that definitely. So it was now that narrative of the movie's coming together, right? Like he knew something was downstairs. Leroy's hearing something in the walls. Now the woman is coming back. So now here's the movie picking up as far as what's about to happen.
Because these idiots parked the van in the driveway.
That was I was weird when I saw that. Like, why not just leave it where it was parked at and just go run up in the house?
They at least give them some time to figure out that somebody's in the house.
Yeah.
But okay, so there's something about this dog and Leroy. That dog did not like Leroy. That is hilarious, right? Dog did not like Leroy. So ultimately, we go into a scene where the man he's on a hunt, right? And so this is what lets me down about Leroy, right? We all knew Leroy was a snake, kind of, sort of. He wasn't no good to rob somebody. We knew he was in life, right? But there comes a point where the guy's looking for who's in the house. Leroy finds an open closet in a hallway with no doors open, right? One door. He pushes Fool out. Like, clearly, both they could have fit in the closet, and he was like, "No room." And he leaves Fool out like on his own, bro.
Cold-blooded.
It's cold-blooded. He leaves Fool for himself. And yeah, bro. So this is where we can dive into some of the characters of Roach, right? So we don't know much about Roach at this point, right? Yeah. We just knew he was after Fool. We don't know why. In a typical horror movie, you think that kind of character, the first monsterish looking character, is always out to kill you, right? Especially
the villain.
Yeah. And so Leroy's in his closet. And here we go with a jump scene. So this is okay. Let's talk about this. Those doors are solid wood doors, right? It seems like.
Yes.
Hallway.
Yeah.
I never understood how that flashlight seemed to peep through that door when man is looking for whoever's in his house, because Leroy backs up like that, and then the beam from the gun makes it through the door. Like maybe it wasn't solid, maybe there was like a vented door, but everything else in that hallway was dark wood doors, like it was solid.
Yeah, I mean it's cinematic. You gotta, because that for that scene was enough to kind of jump Leroy, but also I think he made the noise, which then Roach was able to find out where he was at, right? And that's why, because again, yeah. So he makes the noise in the closet.
Roach slams
Roach.
open a wall.
Yep.
And scares the shit out of Leroy. So he scares Leroy so much that Leroy rather not be in there. He'd rather go out to the hallway where man is waiting for his ass with that beam.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
he tattoos him with that at least 4 or 5 times.
While telling Fool to run, which in this sense, this is the other part of the movie where man doesn't know that the kid is in there just yet. They don't know that Fool's in there.
Right.
He was thinking that he was calling him like a fool.
Which gives Fool more time.
Yes.
Because you said Poindexter, but the nickname Fool just happens to ultimately kind of save his life at that moment. Even though it's a bad tag to wear being a fool, the Fool card saves his life at that point. So Roach. At this point, we've seen Roach chase after Fool. We've seen Roach open the walls and scare the shit out of Leroy. But come to find out, Roach is... So this family, they've been wanting... And we find this out when Fool and Alice finally talk. This family has been wanting the perfect boy child.
Yep.
And every boy child that they've had has broken the rules. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
Yep.
And so for punishment, they chop out whatever it is, the rule that they don't abide by, either seeing something, hearing something, or saying something. And they throw them in the basement. Kind of, sort of, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
So now we know what's in the basement. It's all the kids from prior trials. We don't know how many. We just know that they tried before. And Alice is the first girl child that they've tried to raise.
Okay.
Right. But Alice also tells Fool that Roach got out. Roach was in the basement and Roach got out. He found a way out and he's been living in the walls. And the father has been hunting Roach ever since.
But he's too scared to go because he knows, but he doesn't know what all is back there.
Exactly.
That's the reason why. Yeah.
He's big and he's too scared to go in the walls.
Correct. So, how about Fool and Allison's encounter in the bathroom, right?
Yep. First time they actually had a real conversation.
And I remember vividly the comment that Fool said was, ain't you ever seen a brother before?
Mm-hmm.
And her comment was,
never had
I don't have any brother. Oh shit! That's okay.
It's like the best of both worlds right there, because you got this young kid from the hood, right, who's just street slang and street savvy, street smart. He's probably book smart too, right? And Alex, who's well kept, but secluded, heavily secluded, because she has no idea what's out in the real world. Like you can tell, she's never been out, right? Yeah. So yeah, we come to find out again, Roach was got in the walls, he got free, and so yeah, from there, I want to talk about, because at this point, like it's clear, like this house is it's a maze, right? And it's kind of like a trap after trap after trap, but there's a bunch of different ins and outs of this house. Like this house just keeps seemingly seems to grow.
Yeah,
because Fool went from one side of the vent to the other side to a whole different side of the house.
Yep.
And then you got this crazy ass man just shooting up the house every wall, every chance he gets. He's got a shotgun and he's trying to shoot Roach in the walls and he can't find Roach.
It's the full leather outfit with the face mask for me.
Why? Why, bro? Why do you have to be in the S&M outfit? What is
he literally changed clothes to go hunting, right? Like he literally put on a full leather outfit to go shoot somebody.
what is that S&M with the zippers and like why? Why is that your hunting outfit?
No clue. I was wondering that when I see it. I was like, yo, this dude literally changed out of khakis and the shirt and went into full leather mode. Why? Tumbling through the house and shit.
I don't get it. And so so again, Roach is in the walls, and Roach ultimately, at some point in the movie, saves Fool's life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we begin to see that Roach isn't necessarily after. Well, we don't know what that first encounter was with Roach, right? But we know Roach ultimately saves Fool out of a situation from being shot by man, right? And they take off through the walls, and at some point they end up in Alice's room, and Alice explains Roach got his tongue cut out, so he can't communicate with you like that.
Yeah.
But at this point we understand that Roach and Alice. Oh, do you remember the first time we saw Roach's hand give Alice back that fork? That or the spoon, that threw me off, bro. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, that fool's nails was long as hell, white hands, like hell.
Going on in that house, right? Ultimately, Roach and Fool and Alice have a conversation, and you see Roach. You kind of see the softer side of Roach. Like, look, he's not bad. He's just he's out, and he saved Fool's life. Yeah. So, and then when we know Roach's fate is ultimately met by, he took a stray. Well, it wasn't even a stray. It was meant for him. But, we don't know that until after he saves Fool's life again. He saves Fool's life a couple times.
Yeah. And listen, even with that, like I said, Roach's character, I think it held its weight with him also taunting man while he was through the walls. He was laughing, right? Like you can hear him, like he would laugh at him, like he's like, I know you're in there, and Fool's in the back laughing, and you start laughing. I see where the comedy side of this comes, because he's like, you can't find me, you're not gonna come back here. You know what I'm saying? And then when you realize that when they do shoot the scene where it's Roach and Fool behind the walls, like he literally has it looks like Home Alone. Like he done set up a whole
lights. I don't know how long Roach has been living in these walls either.
Bro, he had Christmas lights, and Fool was like, your place? He's like, yeah. This is me. He was like, yeah, this is me. This is my spot.
Bro, that's so crazy. And so we have the scene where of course, Fool ultimately gets caught by man because he's in the room with. It was that scene. All three of them are talking. Roach gets away, so we think, and then Fool gets caught at gunpoint, and then Alice, who Alice at this point is showing that she's kind of stubborn. She's being exposed to some other things, but the mother's still like, no, I love Alice. Let's just treat Alice right. Get a hold of Fool. They take Fool downstairs into the basement where we just see how bad it is down there. But then also, this is where you see, because he forces Fool to take Leroy downstairs. This is when you see him carving up Leroy and eating Leroy. This is when you realize there's some cannibalism in play here.
Which goes to the scene that we talked about in the beginning. Yeah, the buckshot. So, and even with that, the mother was so, she was so upset at Alice that she played it in that sense of what we talked about, obedient. Remember, you said she also had white on, so she felt like she touched him or touched Roach or whatever. So now she's dirty, right?
You hear the father say, "I know he did it to her. I know he did."
This is shit I'm talking about. Like, see, that's comedy to us. And we're like, what? Like, this nigga's been there running from his life. When did he have time to get some ass real quick? You know what I'm saying? Like,
come on, that's hilarious. He did it to her. No, he did, bro. So yeah, he carves up Leroy, And he threw food into the locked cellar part with the guys. The other children you see, there's like probably 10 of them plus back there, and they all look like they've suffered different tragedies or traumas from this family, right? And then you see ultimately Roach comes to rescue Fool out of the situation, and
come on, but we gotta talk about the way that he does it though, real quick.
Go ahead.
Right. I think Fool plays the comedian in this movie, and I know it doesn't even sound like he should be, but he is the comedian. Why? He uses the dead carcass of Leroy to scare the shit out of Roach. Yeah, Roach is the comedian because Roach uses the dead carcass of Leroy to scare the shit out of the people that's in the room now with Fool to be like, oh snap, like he's not dead. Like,
what's going on here? This is crazy.
What the hell's going on?
We're crazy shit, but this is crazy shit. Right? What is happening here? Yeah, nah, I got you.
So in that sense, though, because Roach is laughing because he's like, I got him. Like he said, come on, like I got you. Now, this is what I want to bring up though. It goes back to Alex because simultaneously, while Man is doing that to Leroy, right? Look at the sense of he's chopping him up, he's making full watch, right? And you can see they got a pit. There's other stuff down there, so you can tell this is something that clearly has happened before. But going back to what you said with Alice and what they view of her, when the woman makes her clean up Leroy's blood.
This is the weirdest part. Go ahead. Yeah, I know what you're getting ready to say.
And after you done threw her down the steps, of course she's gonna slip in blood. She got blood on a white dress. She then puts her in piping hot bath.
Saying that I tell you to do your chores and you get, what do? You go and get blood all over your dress? And you throw me in the blood.
I was like, wait a minute. So you can tell, like, yeah, off their rocker. The woman is definitely there, and then
that woman, real quick. This is my interpretation, but I think I gotta look it up. That woman was representative of Mommy Dearest kind of thing. That was a very Mommy Dearest kind of scene.
Very for sure, because then, and I like the way that, and this is, if we want to really get into movies, right? Us movie buffs really look at it. No one has at scolding hot as that damn water was, right? Not only, and then she played, and listen, Alice played a wonderful part of, the scene to make it seem like that water, like she almost jumped back out of the tub as fast as she could. But it was after when she got out and she had the robe on. Bro, she was strawberry red.
She was red. Red is this fucking tag.
I was like, damn. So like super scared. Like, so then, like you said, it became that obedience. So you can tell they have a structure there. We already see that they don't like black people, clearly, right? They don't let people in their house. They don't want anybody coming. So they have this, now your head is like, what the fuck else is going to happen with this family? Because like, what do they got going on? And then this is where we're at with now Roach saving Fool once again. And then we get into the next scene, which is them kind of getting a different connection of what's happening.
So yeah, Roach saves Fool in the furnace, and this is when you realize Roach is ultimately wounded.
Yes,
like we don't have much time with Roach left, and he gives Fool a gift, which is probably, so if the movie had to have like a touching, a heartwarming, a heartfelt point in it, this is it. This is where you realize, once again, Roach isn't as bad as you think he is at the very beginning, and how great of a guy he is because he saves Fool multiple times, and then on his deathbed, he blesses Fool with a bag of gold coins. Like he's like, I know why you're here. This is why they all here. And for some reason, like maybe because it was the innocence of a child, like he saw himself in Fool. Because damn sure Spencer was there early, and I know Spencer probably came across these guys, and he didn't give Spencer anything. But there was something about Fool, and again, it's the innocence of a child. Like he knows what happens to children in there, and I'm assuming to have it. There's no other reason why you were in here as a child. Like you need, and I got for you. So he also tells him ultimately, like, look, before I go, Alice is up there. You get her, and you get the fuck up out of here.
Yep.
So
Roach, like I said, Roach was really that guy. Like you almost wish that he didn't die. You know what I'm saying? You kind of wanted to see it play out because Roach had and the reason why is because Roach had like it's like he had the one up on them, right? And he was their one up of how we can get whatever we needed to get done, right? But
so,
I thought it was.
Go ahead.
No, I thought it was dope that he still thought about Alice because clearly Alice was feeding him. You know what I'm saying? And they definitely took care of each other. But for him to say, "Listen, man, this is what I can do for you, but I just need, like you said, I need you to go get Alice and get up out of here." You know what I'm saying? And Fool didn't run away from that. So now here you are again, responsibilities of I'm supposed to be in here, supposed to be doing one thing. Now I'm also trying to get my life out, save my own life. But now I got to go help somebody else. Like he never stopped kind of being in that position of I got to do for other people. So you know what I mean?
You talk about funny. So in a roundabout way to me, Man was funny too, bro. Because let me tell you, he's like 6'7". He's tall, right? Mm-hmm. And every chance Fool mess this dude up every which way, and like the reactions of the guy who played the reactions of this guy. Made me look him up. Everett McGill, like his facial expressions. Fool punched him in the nuts. Fool hit him over the head with the toilet, the back of the toilet. Like the dog's barking at the door, and he tells the dog, "Shut up!" Like this he is comedy as well. Like to him be the villain. But come on, bro. He's running around the house in fucking S&M costume. This guy is not meant to be taken serious. If anything, the mother is more scary than he is. Like this guy is a buffoon.
Facts. Like I'm glad you brought that up because when he punched him in the nuts, he had the
bro. Line of the movie, because I was gonna ask you what the line of the movie. The line of the movie was when Fool hit him over the head with the toilet, the back of the toilet thing, and he said, "If you come in here, I'm gonna kick your ass." Bro, I'm done every time I hear that. Like this dude wasn't scared of Fool was not scared of nothing.
Yeah, when he was yelling, "Gotcha!" Like he was like, Man was really like again. You can see the comedy in it in that side because, like you said. The woman was the more she was kind of like she was the one that was she was definitely in charge. She was the one that would say do this, do that. Because even in the earlier scene, she already showed dominance. So that first scene with the family, right? When he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get them out of there, evict them," and she's like, "Yeah, because we want to put up new houses, or put up company buildings or whatever.
Nice, clean people in there.
Nice, clean people." And he's like, "Yeah, and get the money." She's like, "Yeah, and the money." But she was stating like, "This is what we gonna do first." You know what I'm saying? So she definitely showed her dominance in the whole situation. But there's a scene later on that showed there was a little that was getting ready to switch before it went
absolutely. And so that before we get there, so ultimately Fool and Alice have a chance to escape, right? Fool finds a way out, and Alice is so terrified because one, it seemed like it was an open window in the attic, and the fresh air hit Alice. You could tell she had never felt fresh air like that before, and it took her back a little bit. Fool was like, "Yo, you can see the hood from here. I'm about to go home," and Alice was terrified because she won for two things. I don't think the jump scared Alice. I think it was the fear of what's on the other side of what's outside of these walls. Like, I know what's right here. I know how scary it is right here, but I can see this. Like, what's out there? Like, and ultimately, she saved Fool's life in the situation because he was getting ready to get blasted on, and he took, ain't nothing more you could do to Fool. I'm up out of here. And he took the dive off the roof, landed in the lake, went back home. Boom. In the hood. Like, got the coins handed to Grandpa Booker. Is that his name? Grandpa Booker. And so again, I told you he's that old wise man in every movie, and he's got that deep old Morgan Freeman voice. He's like, "Don't if I got these coins from anybody else, I would have told you check
You
him
know,
back.
got the gray pants with no belt loops.
Exactly. I would have told you to check him back. It's like, but I tell you what, these coins are gonna. He's like, they're gonna save. They're gonna pay your rent to the year 2000. So, bro, 2000 probably seems so. We're 24 years past 2000 now. So think about that. This is 91, and he's talking about fool can pay his rent to 2000, and that was 24 years ago. So fool's probably out the hood now. And I don't know, but then it's like then the ultimate reveal happens. He's like that brother sister act you was over there messing with. No, nobody messed with that family. Then he tells you the story about how pretty much incest has been going on in the house, and every year, like every generation of that family is just crazier and crazier. I mean, that's yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, and that's when in full kind of looks at him crazy. Like, what you mean, brother and sister? When you can, he's heard them refer to themselves as, you know, mommy and daddy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that's then, of course, when now the question I have for you, and while we're kind of diving into this, what exactly? This is the part where I said this is not. This is where I would have tapped out. If I definitely would have gone through all of that, I'm not going back in there for Alice. But I think because like what we said about Roach is the real reason why he really went back for Alice. You know what I mean? I mean, I think he would have probably done it just from what she had going on. But Roach was, like you said, as many times as he saved him and put himself in the line, like, but he also knew I got to go back and get Alice because it ain't and everybody that's in there.
So, and two things to that, bro. So think about it. Yeah, one. So fools. Ruby is the older sibling, and she said, "I don't want you going back in and messing with them people," but she knows she can't stop him, which is crazy. Like this dude is 13, but that man in the house role means a lot. Ruby ain't go. What can Ruby tell him? She knows he's going back. She's telling him, "Don't go back to mess with them people. I read them cards. Them cards ain't reading right." And he was like, "I made a promise to her.
Yeah,
got to go back." I'm like, damn, bro. Like you said, bro, I don't know. I'm back home in the hood. I'm feeling good. Like, you know, I know the dangers right here. This is nothing to me going back in that. But he didn't hesitate, bro. He was like, I gotta go back. Like he was all clean. He took a shower and all that. Like he had different clothes on. And he found a way back in. He set it up so he can have a way back in. And I mean, and as crazy as man and woman were, they knew the setup.
yeah.
They knew the setup. They knew what it was.
Yep.
They knew, you know, okay. It was an opportunity for him to try something. Let's set the bait and trap and let's see what happens. So, yeah, bro. And so this is where we have like the ultimate of ultimate showdowns, right? Because he's back in the house again. And we know it ain't gonna be that easy getting out. Right. So he finds Alice. Alice like, look, we can't get out here the same way. They booby trapped that lake, and it's dynamite all through this house now.
Yeah, and also at this point, Prince is still alive. See, because the scene didn't happen until wasn't it when he went back in the house, right?
No, I thought that was the first half.
Was that the first half?
The first half, because that's when he ultimately got because remember when he punched dude in the nuts and him and Alice went in the walls.
Right.
And
That's right. Okay.
So when he goes back, there is no Prince.
Right. And I think that scene was
that was comedy. That bro, he was the comic relief when it wasn't no Roach.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think because it was weird because you said that the dog had an issue with Leroy before but then Fool was like, I ain't running. Like I gotta face this. Yeah. So but not to go too far back, but I thought that was a good scene because that also played the scene where Alice was committed to running away as well at that moment still because she had to help Fool with the dog with Prince. And then it wasn't until that moment where you know, man killed Prince and he thought that he had killed Fool and he was celebrating this shit.
And she was like, prove it to me. My woman is like, prove it to me. But look, so this is the thing. Like Alice did all that, went through the walls, went all that. They had her chained upstairs. And woman was still trying to cover for Alice. Like, no, not my baby. Like he's kind of gotten to her, but no, we still want her. Like it wasn't until Alice finally. So Fool returns with the news of, look, they ain't your parents.
Yeah.
You were stolen. Like, and like everybody else, you don't belong here. And like you see like a change in Alice's face. Like she's pissed. Like, now I really got to get out of here. I can't fear what's on the outside anymore because now I know I really don't belong here. Like I don't owe these people anything and they don't owe me nothing. They can take me out any moment.
Right.
Pretty much. We have the showdowns between Fool and Man, kind of sort of an Alice and woman kind of thing. Yeah. And the showdown obviously has to happen in the basement, right?
Yeah.
That's the only fitting part. And again, for when Fool came back, like you could hear the people under the stairs say, Fool, like they were happy to see him, but we don't know. Bro, that's so crazy because we never got that kind of reaction before. And we don't know what they were trying to do when he was in there the first time, when they were sizing up, when they were trying to eat him. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, I think that moment where even when Roach was doing what he did with Leroy's body, I think by them seeing Roach save him, they was like, oh, okay, well, he's not one of them where we can't, we got to go about this differently. You know what I mean? Which is crazy because you think about the whole cannibalism that they're showing in this movie at that time with him throwing them parts, human parts and stuff like that. So at that point they're like, oh shit, he came back, where nobody gets out of here definitely in their right mind would try to come back to this place. So now they like, hey, what's up?
Get me, because they drag it. Remember, they use him as bait to kill a lot. But that's the thing. So here's the question. Did they really know he got out? Or were they in a position to know anything about what's happening? They just know he came back downstairs.
I think one, like you say, you had to change your clothes. I think then because Alice was also chained up in the basement. So at that point, they probably had never seen Alice in the basement, right? So they probably are assuming, huh?
She was in the attic.
Was she in the attic? I just remember that. Oh, because the chimney. Yeah.
Top of the chimney.
So I think at that point,
maybe they just assumed. Maybe they assumed that he had left, but all they know he was back.
Yeah.
And at this point, they were on his side because they used him to shoot the lock, and they pulled him in to their circle because it wasn't much Man was going to do. Like he was, and I never understood why they didn't attack. Like he's the reason why you back there. Are you that trained mentally? Like, does he have something holding you to where you don't attack Man?
Yeah, I mean, he's feeding them, so they looking at him from the standpoint of like he feeds us. That's. I mean, you realize that they've probably been removed from all things, right?
Oh yeah, bro. They were painted up funny. They were pale, skin issues. So back up real quick. Man has Fool at gunpoint, ready to blow him away, and Ruby and Grandpa Booker come to the door, and woman is getting ready to drop that N-bomb. She's like, I don't see no neighborhood. All I see is a couple of Bruh, she was getting ready to lay. She didn't care. She was more ruthless than Man.
For sure. She was definitely that one. Interesting that you bring that up because I didn't think that she was initially going to answer the door because remember prior to that, the whole setup was wasn't it that it was like the cops were did the cops come back? Because
it was the first knock was Ruby and she thought it was the cops. And then Grandpa knocked at the door. She shut the door in Ruby's face, and he said, "Police."
Yeah.
So, and it was very believable. Police.
Well, I'm saying the reason why they left the trap for Fool to get into the house the second time. So remember,
because the cops were in the house,
right? So that's what I'm saying. So because they had already had the interaction with the cops before, right, on the van, and then they came back and the whole nine, and that's when he tried to hide up where he got hit in the head and all that stuff. That she's like, if I don't see, and then here's the other thing. This was interesting. She said, if I don't see another cop or Cookie, So at this point, they don't like anybody that's not them. You know what I mean? Like if it's not them, which then I thought it was more of a bigger picture because clearly when we heard that, when they dropped that, the N-word, right? I was like, oh damn. So this is just all pro hate on us. But she was like, if I don't see a cop.
Nobody. I don't like nobody. Yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't opposed to dropping that word.
Oh no, not at all.
Not at all. Not she would lay into that.
Would have been interesting, real quick. Would have been interesting if it was one black cop, one white cop, and that interaction of how she was with that. I think that would have been that would have been a good like kind of telltale moment because she would have probably talked to the white cop and not addressed the black cop if that was the case.
Interesting. So then we have the ultimate. We have the showdowns between Fool and man, and then woman and Alice. But again, when Fool is in the chambers, the main person under the stairs tells Fool he wants to give him something.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's triggered with an alarm. Fool's like, man, I've been in the hood so much. I know how to get past it. Fool is hood smart. Like, I know how to get past an alarm now. Got past and goes in there. And then, bro, the treasure trove of just all the money that has been taken out of the hood or wherever they were into was in that room. Now, my question is, obviously, you know what? That's the thing. Man was probably more scared of what's in the walls than the kids or his children in that room because he had to be the one putting the money back there. He had the alarm set.
Yeah.
So he wasn't afraid of them, which is weird. But, that's why that's the best way to hide your money is by guard dogs, right?
Well, he could control them. He couldn't control Roach. And that's what Alice said. Like, he was always upset because they can't control Roach, right? And the other ones they could because they were feeding them. You know what I mean? And doing all of that stuff. Roach was the one that Alice had to feed, you know what I'm saying? And that, yeah. When you put it that way, because then I thought about it and I was like, damn, I ain't seen no shit like that since like Scrooge. You know what I'm saying? Like the mountains of money and gold. And then they even had the room off to the side that even had some other shit going on in there. When you look at that, you be like, damn, like they was really sitting on a lot of shit. So it kind of goes into what would you say, old man or Grandpa Booker was like that generations, and that because as much money as they had in there was on some generations,
and they wanted more.
Yeah,
wanted more. All right, so yeah, let's dive into. I got a couple notes on the movie. So, and you and I were talking off screen and how fitting this movie is for what's happening in the world today. With gentrification, and Wes Craven he wasn't far off when he wrote this, and I think he wrote it to play a part as far as impoverished blacks in the hood and rich whites taking, from the hood or just taking from anybody. It doesn't have to be black people because there was some impoverished white people in this movie as well too. But the gentrification idea of making bringing down the value of the property so bad and so poor and forcing people out by raising rents and putting families out on the street to when they wanted to flip it to condominiums. Bro, this is DC. This is DC right now.
It's a whole lot of places, bro.
Yeah. This is crazy. How this was made in 1991. We know gentrification's been happening here and there in different places, but 91 and we're in 2024, 3 days in, and this story fits
to the T. Literally,
people are struggling in the hood. It's the money chase that's going on out here just for survival, and I mean, it's kind of taking from the rich or people who seem to be a little well off.
For sure. And I listen, and it's and we can, dive into this maybe a little bit, but not too much. But, for Wes to tell that story when we're supposed to be considering this a horror film is even more of the genius that he is to say that I can spin this and you're going to get a life lesson out of this while engaged in the movie in all fronts of it. Like again, we won't get into that. That'll be another episode when I get an invite as far as Wes and his his catalog. But perfect setting, you know what I mean? In regards to everything that you just said, the gentrification into now, but even that there are still little kids that are 12, 13, 14 that are being asked to be the man of the household to figure out a way to get it in this day and age is crazy, because it's almost impossible for one person to live by themselves, let alone having others to take care of, and think that one income is going to be able to hold down a house or even rent out this home.
Absolutely, bro. This is crazy. I mean, okay. Ultimately, we've already called this movie a classic. I'm standing on that because it is a classic. It's a horror classic, and I think I think it could be considered a hood classic too, because it does touch base on the African American on the black side of things as well. And I think I'm interested to see. It's aged well. Do you think this aged well? I mean, touching up here and there, but do you think it's aged well as far as storyline and plot?
For sure. And that's, with us not being as biased about, because we both like this movie and we've watched this movie, I think it has aged well. One, like you said, you start off with the show with saying what it costs to make and then what the actual sales were, right? So it had to transcend over time. Like that wasn't just, it didn't make that 30 that first week or that first month. Like it was that. And then this used to be, like I said, this was on like TNT. This would come on Friday nights, Saturday nights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I think this movie for sure aged well. I think it definitely, and listen, the fact that we can watch this movie, and like you said, that it was in 91, but we can still view this as if somebody just made this last year or even this year or whatever it was. I think it does. I think it goes well.
Here's my next question, because it's been released, it's been publicized that Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Productions has signed on to do a remake of Wes Craven's People Under Stairs. And we know that, and Jordan. So I don't know how involved Jordan Peele is going to be. Just knows his production company. Meaning he's probably he may have some involvement with the writing. His company is funding it, but he's not going to direct it as of now, because he's typically only directed his original films. But with their remake on Candyman and any kind of movie that he's done, there's always a tone of inequalities. It's always been tie in his movies, and like the Candyman aspect, like what he did with that, it was a slow build, but it gave you more of the inequalities of what's happening
for sure
in the world. And so now with this one, is a good story. Like we just told you, the gentrification that Wes Craven was talking about is still happening now, and so there's definitely a story to this. Is right up his alley.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. I think if anyone could pull it off, he could pull it off because of the type of storytelling that his production team seems to tell. So I'm actually looking forward to it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, we listen. We both saw this and contacted each other. It was like, bro, like I know you said, yeah, like, and even though it's his production company, you realize, he trusts his team or whoever that, maybe that's in his camp, that they'll do a good job at it. I put it to you like this: like I feel confident, and I'll say it, and I don't think it's wrong to make this assumption or even to say this. It's from his era and what he did, how old he is, where he grew up, and the fact that he like horror. It would be the equivalent of you and I saying we can seriously see certain what we consider hood classics or horror films being redone that were really for us at a younger age that can still be told today, right? And I think from that I'm more interested in because I would like to see the parallels because I really like this movie. This is not a movie that I feel like, no, you shouldn't redo, because I feel like the way that, like you said, the story that's within the story that's going to be told is going to be the one that I'm really looking forward to being like, the correlation of 91 to 2024 is really where it's going to hit home and be like, we still dealing with the same shit and years later. So interested though. I am interested, and I will go see it in the theaters. I will not.
Absolutely.
I will not catch this on a streaming platform. I will go see this in the theater.
And there's no real soundtrack, because I like to dive into the soundtrack. There's no real soundtrack that stands out to me here. And I really didn't pay attention to how it was scored. Just a couple of the chase scenes seemed okay, but yeah, there was no real soundtrack that stood out. So let's get into the rings. And what we do is smoke ring, because we're supposed to be smoking hookah, and we tie that into the rings of the rating system. So we rate it from a 1 to 5, 5 being the best. What are you rating? And you can be biased, you can be real, whatever. What are you rating Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs?
Give it a 4.5 smoke rings, and but it was the 4 with the half. The reason why I say that, but to your point, I think it was because there wasn't a soundtrack, which I feel like they would have definitely that would have definitely kind of added that overall thing. The ending song though is a New Jack Swing type of song, so that in that era of New Jack Swing, so you see where being in the hood, being in the ghetto, they could have had certain things, and again, it's no knock on Wes, because like, he's about the craft of the movie, and yes, we're the movie buffs of all the way through from soundtrack that also enhances the actual movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. 4.5 for me. It is definitely a hood classic. Anybody that wants to debate that, I have no problem with that. Any other show that's doing movie reviews, if you would like to debate us on why this is not a hood classic, we will definitely we can have that out. But yeah,
here's a question for you: do they ever tell you where they're supposed to be? Like, I'm assuming Chicago.
I for some reason thought it was Detroit. And then
did they mention Detroit in there?
So I think they do.
He's tall as these, something about he's tall as Detroit or something like that. He does, Fool does mention Detroit once.
Yeah, and I'm thinking you're 13. He probably has never left. So if he mentioned Detroit, that's where I'm thinking that's where they're at is in Detroit. At no point in time, I don't think. And I'm like I said, we're movie buffs.
I didn't pay attention.
Well, yeah, I didn't see anybody sax straight on, right? It was always a side view of a car. And then even when they were pulling the black car or the van, I think the van didn't even have like, front tags. Or if they did, it probably didn't say like whatever state it was in. But I think it was Detroit. But again,
it's labeled, yeah. I gotta look. And maybe we'll figure that out. I'm gonna give it. You know what? I agree with you. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. A couple different reasons. I think that there were some holes in the story for sure. I mean, just as far as different points in the movie where it could have ended early, or just even there being a storyline at all. I mean, I'm gonna give it a 4. I mean, it's still a classic. Nothing takes it away. It's not the perfect movie, so it doesn't deserve a 5. But yeah, it'll be between 4.5 for me. But I enjoyed it. It's still a classic. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect for it to be on the rewatch list.
For sure. Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah, man. Look, I appreciate you for joining in. Hold on. Appreciate you for chiming in tonight, bro. Let's do this again. I mean, we got a couple more movies in our up our bag, up our sleeves that's in the bag that we should definitely tackle until Big Mike returns.
For sure.
Yeah, man. But look, that's it. Smoque N Spiel. We Are Something Else presents Smoque N Spiel, episode 8. Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs. All right, y'all. Peace.